Hello and welcome to Tabletops and Bottoms.
A show where we talk about all things TTRPG, nerdy, or gay. So let's get into our topic for today, which is we're talking about all about game masters today and what makes a good game master. I am speaking as somebody who is, listen, I am one of those like forever GMs where I don't usually get to play. And I'm not gonna lie, it's mostly because like a lot of tables that I join, no one wants to be like the GM. And I have a backlog of games that I have already put together.
So you're prepared.
So I am prepared. Like if somebody needs me to be GM, I am like fully prepared with like pre-generated characters, plot lines, everything.
Damn.
That usually just comes from the fact of I have a lot of one-shots planned for the game that we generally our continuous game that we play like Thursdays, and sometimes those just get backburnered due to like either real life things or because we're actually on like the main plot. Y'all don't generally do side quests. I will say, if we do side quests, it's generally I think because somebody's like has to miss that week or something. But I haven't done a lot of side quests in this particular game because you guys are playing like two different characters. Which gets a little bit more complicated. Technically 3 actually, because we're doing our in-between campaign. Listen, I'm a little bit crazy. So in this game, what they're doing is they're playing good characters, they're playing evil characters. These timelines run alongside each other. And then we also have an in-between campaign that sort of covers the things that are happening in the world outside of them, and their other 2 characters get to sort of suffer the consequences of this in-between campaign.
It's wild.
Yeah, it's wild. Let me tell you, my note-taking for this is it's easier than what you would think, but I think it's only because I've already pinpointed where I want your characters to sort of like cross over in each of these episodes. Okay, so that was a complete tangent, but no, speaking as like somebody who is primarily a GM rather than a player, like I think what makes a good GM generally is I think somebody who listens to their players. I'm somebody where like I fully believe in like player agency, so if they want to do something, regardless of whether or not, like, it's a good or smart idea, like, if it's fun and it's not going to, like, sideline anybody, then I generally let it happen.
Sometimes I say things, and then, as a joke, and then Kennedi just runs with it. So now one of my characters is just a murderer.
Yeah, that was...
It was a joke.
Listen, so you gotta be careful at what you tell me sometimes, because let me tell you, my favorite plot point from campaign 1 that we did is Nicole's character,
a chihuahua,
tiny but mighty barbarian, love it. Her character like did not believe in magic, and only thinks that magic is something that comes from like the gods. And so of course the first game that I play with her and our other character, Nicole's character fully believed that Misha's character, who is a cleric,
a rabbit
cleric, is a god. And it became a running joke the entire game that Clover was a god. And she would say occasionally, "All hail the great god Clover." Not only did I run with this, I fully created an entire side plot that ended up becoming part of like the actual main plot itself, where she's the reincarnated god of second chances. It was a small joke that she had put in there, and I ran with it. And that is a thing I think that is very fun. That GMs will do, or I would hope that some GMs would do. Just take something and run with it, because it could turn into one of the most either gratifying things that you'll ever do, or it'll just be like something that's like very, very fun.
I agree. I've never been a GM. My time is coming rapidly approaching. But do you have any tips you could give?
In terms of like, there's a lot of tips I feel like I'd give, but let me start with like one of the most important things is when you're plotting out your actual campaign. There's a lot that you can do, and it gets chaotic, I'm not gonna lie. And depending on your personal style of organization, it could be an absolute like garbage fire. Because my notes span from, I have like 5 different notebooks. I never remember which one has my actual notes in it. I'm better at that now. I actually did. Okay. I picked one notebook and I was like, I have to put all my notes in here because I was going through and I was actually like searching all my notebooks to find where I had written that like that game's notes. And then I also have in my Google Drive a bunch of notes with all of my campaign stuff in there. And let me tell you, keep one document where you keep everything. It's going to get absolutely messy. It will. But you'll have everything in there. Yeah. And then from there, you can split it off into like other little chunks, but have one master document because
that makes sense.
That's what I did. That's what worked for me. It could not work for other people. That's absolutely fine. For me, it's just easy where I can just like hit Control F, find what I need by keywords that I stick in there.
Smart.
I also find that it helps when I'm actually playing with you guys in game. I'll just write like bullet points. Actually, I learned this from Jason Carl, who is the amazing storyteller for Vampire Masquerade. And he will tell his players, hold on, let me make a note of that.
Okay.
And I've started implementing that because it makes sense. Like, I am letting you know that I'm taking notes, like, as I'm going through. And it also accounts for, like, a weird, awkward silence that inevitably happens when you're trying to, like, keep track of things.
That is a good tip. Gotta remember that one.
Listen, like, I feel like open communication a lot of the times is, like, really great between, like, players and GMs when you're playing. Like, don't be afraid to, like, pause the game and just talk to each other. Just because I think a lot of times GMs feel a lot of pressure to keep the story going all the time. And you don't have to. Like, I'm going to be real. This is going to be... Maybe this should be... I should wait for my hot take on this one.
Okay.
But, like, a lot of us out there, we are not Matt Mercer. We are not a Bria Iyengar or Brennan Lee Mulligan or, like, Connie Chang or Jason Carl, any of these amazing, like... GMs out there. We are ordinary people. We are not like classically trained like actors, and we don't have those skill sets, and that is 100% fine. Don't set yourself to their standards. These are actual professional people, and most of us are at home doing this for fun. If you're expecting your players to be like Critical Role level or Dimension 20 level, and you also have to bring that same energy. Like, match energies. That's what I'm saying. Match energies. Okay. Like, don't expect to be at a table that's going to be, like, full of, like, tears and angst and heartbreak. And don't expect, like, Emmy-winning performances because a lot of us out there, we are not like that. And that is absolutely fine. Like, I'm 100% fine that, like, I don't get, like, tears and weeps from my players every game. Like, that's not my goal. Your goal as a GM should be that everybody has fun, and yourself included. Like, you are the unspoken player of the game. You might be God in this game, sure, but you're also a player because you're playing everybody else.
Yeah. I'm talking like I know what. I haven't done it yet. I don't know. I don't have any tips to give.
But you do, though. As a player, you have tips for, like, things that you like seeing in GMs.
That is true. You do like these things where you would make like in-game, especially for the first campaign, it would be like an in-game newspaper and you would just like slap that into the Discord. I really liked reading those. It was really fun. Like just in-world handouts I think are really cool.
I will say, okay, listen, I fully dropped ball actually on like the in-game newspapers because I do actually, I have the whole template built out and everything, and I just keep forgetting that I'm going to do them.
I mean, it doesn't have to be every week, but it's a cool, like a little once in a while drop. Just like, ooh.
Yeah, that's true.
And you also like, built it in the first campaign because you had the jobs for us. That we
Yeah,
got to
I
pick.
did.
Yeah, and it was like a little side quest where we can decide where we were going next. So I thought that was pretty fun. Yeah.
I am the type of person, so like the reason I do a lot of those things is because I am personally a fan of getting like physical like props. As much as I very much enjoy using my imagination, a lot of the times when I see like actual plays and they have physical things with them, I think that's super cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want to do as much as I can for my players on that end. I don't always do it because like let's be real, like sometimes I get busy and like I drop the ball in those things, but I try to. It's easier like when you're in person, you have like a full physical game in front of you. But yeah, no, I genuinely like doing that because I know there's a lot of players out there, which also, now that I know, there are some players at our table who do not visualize things the same way that like I do.
Yeah. Guilty.
I forgot what that's called.
Aphantasia.
Yeah, aphantasia. Yeah. I did not realize how many of our players had that. And now I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, now I understand why like certain handouts that I give are like resonate better with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's another, you brought up a good point though, in the sense of like resonating with other players is that sometimes, not even sometimes, I think you should get to know your players in the way that they like think or like visualize things, I think.
Yeah.
I regret that I didn't do that with you guys a lot sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Just because like I feel like we've talked so much, we've hung out so often that like it didn't even cross my mind that I didn't really know like.
But you didn't even know it existed.
That's true. I also didn't know it existed. So I was like, so for all of you GMs out there, look up Aphantasia, see how many of your players have it and like what you can do to make games more immersive.
Yeah. I mean, even if we didn't have the handouts, I would still be immersed. But it does make it a little bit cooler just to see things like in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For all of you prospective GMs out there, or all of you current GMs out there, like it's do your best, but don't kill yourself over it.
True.
Like your players will understand. I hope your players will understand. I've heard a lot of nightmare stories about like players and GMs being guilty of a lot of things that are not necessarily great.
I keep seeing those like Reddit posts where it's like my GM gave us a list of rules and it's like you have to be at the table by a certain time or else they're leaving. Like you have to if you try to do this or this or this, I'm just gonna leave. Like crazy things.
I am stunned.
I don't understand.
Okay, listen, if you are like that, don't fucking be a GM. Don't do it.
Yeah, I don't understand why you would even want to. It seems like at that point, if you're handing your players rules, like you don't even want to be there.
Right?
Like,
I remember, like, I was told a story where it was a GM, not naming names.
Oh no.
It's none of it's here.
Okay.
Like there's someone out there who will know exactly what I'm talking about. But there was a GM out there who absolutely did exactly all those things, and they wanted to control everything, even what the players were doing. They would say things like, "Oh no, you're not supposed to do that. You have to do this."
You're not supposed to do that. Right. Well, at that point, just write a novel.
Literally, though. I'm like, yeah. At that point, literally write a novel. Like, let your players do what they're supposed to do, because at the end of the day, like, you have to surrender control of certain things. Like,
yeah, it's not. You're not the high king of the table.
Yeah, literally, you're not.
This is not a dictatorship. But yeah, I just remember seeing that post and just all the comments ragging on that person.
Yeah,
deservedly so.
Deservedly so. Don't be a controller. Like,
big
nobody
red
wants that. Yeah,
giant red flags.
I don't even think this is a hot take, but like, I think everyone at the table should have equal power, players and GMs.
That's fair. I agree. You also just can't have bangers every week.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes just like let loose and like have stupid games.
Yeah.
Literally,
Those are the best ones.
Yeah, sometimes like they are.
Yeah.
Like there are some times where like I will have, this is probably the terriblest thing I've ever done, but like I will literally have one bullet point written down, and that is all I will have, and I will let my players just take control. And sometimes those ends up being like the best games.
Well, that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad that we aren't disappointing you.
Listen, sometimes y'all are way too clever, and I'm like, listen to me. There have been times where I have to rewrite an entire campaign because these motherfuckers figured it out way too soon, and I'm like, damn. This campaign's gonna end in 2 games. Last minute tip for me, set up safety measures.
Oh, true.
I think that is extremely important. I'm not gonna say I learned this the hard way, because I really didn't. I learned from when we played the game Alice is Missing.
Oh, yeah.
I'd never heard of the X card system. I'd never heard of lines or veils. And I learned from that. And that was amazing. I will also link that in the description because that is a fantastic game.
Mm-hmm.
But that's where I learned how to use safety measures, and I set one up for us.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
How come your safe word is always cabbage?
So, okay. There's a show that I like to watch, and I was watching a behind the scenes, and their safe word is cabbage.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of the times they do a lot of stunts that are perceived as very dangerous, and they need to be able to tell the difference between what's real and what's not. And so their safe word is cabbage.
Okay.
And it's, for some reason, it's stuck in my head, and it's the only one that I can genuinely remember as a safe word.
Okay. That's a good reason.
So I started implementing it at our tables. Nobody so far has ever had to safe word out of anything.
No.
But I did. There's a few things that I've implemented in our Discord. I have a channel dedicated to trigger warnings.
Yeah.
So if something's going to potentially come up that I think is going to be harmful, then I'll drop that in there. Regardless of if it may or may not happen, it's there.
And you also did the thing when we were making characters for Vampire the Masquerade that we should still play. You asked if there's anything that you should be aware of.
Yeah.
That we're not comfortable with.
Yeah, I actually, I created an entire Google Forms sheet that is a list of lines and veils. I did not create the list on my own. I did look up things that other people had done. But it's literally a list of a lot of triggers. This list does expand as I think of things or as I come across them.
Mm-hmm.
So the list started off as with like 5 things. And then now it's closer to like the 20 triggers on there. And it's a poll that literally just says, I'm okay with this, I'm not okay with this.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an option for other.
Yeah, text box.
Yeah, exactly. So there's actually one that I got back because I started a different game. And one of the text box says, as long as it doesn't happen to me. And I'm like, actually, you know what? That is a valid thing to have on there.
Mm-hmm.
And then at the end, I usually just compile like this line of lines and veils, and it is there for everybody to view. And I do this anonymously, on purpose, because a lot of people are they get nervous about saying like, well, I'm not really comfortable with this topic. And
I never realized it was anonymous.
Oh god. Yeah, no, it's fully anonymous. Every time I make you fill out a form, it's anonymous, because like I've had a couple of players come to me before and they're like, listen, I'm not comfortable with something. I need to tell you, like full disclosure, like why I'm triggered by certain things.
Okay.
And I was like, yeah, like I'm really glad that you felt you were comfortable enough to tell me about that. And so from there, that's when I was like, I need to create a forum that you guys can just fill out anonymously that just tells me, hey, like, I'm not okay with something.
Smart.
And, like, I always keep an eye on that. If it's a line for somebody, but it's a veil for somebody else, it's a line for everybody.
That's a good way to play it.
That's not something that I'm willing to cross.
Yeah.
And then I also like to do a follow-up. I have a follow-up form that I've also created where it's literally just like, did something happen in game that you are concerned about and you just want to bring it up to me? That one's also anonymous. I don't make you fill out your names or anything on there. So like if something happens, you can bring it up to me, and I'm not gonna call you out on it or whatever. That's never my goal.
Yeah.
The end goal is like straight up safety.
Yeah. That you can have fun, but
yeah,
don't cross someone's boundary. That's just mean.
Like I will actually no, I will say I did learn safety, not the safety tips from like how to do those properly, but I have learned what my boundaries are by being at tables where my boundaries were crossed and I didn't know that those were boundaries that I had.
Yeah.
There's been a couple times where I've had to retire a character because I felt so bad about it. Like, I'm gonna be real with you for 1 second. Like, the game where I had to retire a character was because I'm not somebody where I don't like racism, period. Mm-hmm. Racism does not exist in my games. It is not a thing. Like, we are beyond that. Mm-hmm. But I experienced that, not as a player, but my character did. And it felt very, very personal for me, and I was not okay with it. And this was a table where like safety measures were not put in place. So I didn't feel comfortable saying, hey, like, I'm not okay with this. So I literally sat through that 4-hour one shot feeling wildly uncomfortable, and like by the end of it, I retired my character, and I just like I sat in my bedroom and I just cried. Cuz like there was a lot of things happening in my real life that were like not okay. And just on top of that, like having somebody being like fully, it wasn't even like, I don't know how, racism is like not mild racism, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was full on, like really? I fully felt like I was being truly like discriminated against. Like if there were slurs in the D&D world, those would absolutely be thrown my way. Like that's how bad it was. And like the player behind it like did not know that what he was doing was like genuinely wrong, and it was like actually hurting me. And at the time, like if safety measures were in place, I should have said something. Yeah. And like I really regret that like that happened.
Yeah. That's sad.
That's a dour note. Yeah. But yeah, that is like something that I don't ever want anybody else to experience.
Yeah. It's good to let them know.
Yeah.
That safety measures exist. If you are planning to be a GM, it's a good idea to implement them.
Yeah. And also, like, if you need help implementing safety measures, like, you are not the only one responsible for this. As a GM, no. Everybody at the table is responsible for those safety measures. Like, don't be afraid. As a GM, if your players are doing something like that's setting you off, making you feel uneasy, end it. Like, call that shit out.
Safety measures are for everyone.
Literally, safety measures are for everyone. Yeah.
Well, let's end the episode here. Thank you for joining us.
And if you want to hear from us from other topics you want us to cover, let us know in the comments.
Bye.
Bye.